Hey, welcome back to the next episode of Just Talkin podcast here at DeKalb Farmers Co-op. My name is Jason Plunkett, and today we're out here on the farm. We're on Cody's farm. Cody Eston here. He's the manager here at our Rainsville store, and we got Maddie Wheeler with us right here. She is the Corteva representative, range and pasture specialist.
Yes,
and we're going to do what we're calling a weed walk. This is mid-February. It's about 60 degrees out. We've had a warm spell, and now I think we're going into some more colder weather. And we just want to give you an idea of the weed pressure that's out in your fields now.
Yes,
you
sir.
know, that you really don't see. Maddie, what are we looking at?
Absolutely, yeah. Spring is a great time as we're getting ready for pasture and hayland weed control, fertility, a lot of spring activities we can do to really set ourselves up for success as we go through the season. Everything from pulling our soil tests, figuring out what our fertility is, and then like you said, the weed pressure.
Yep.
90% of weed control is just knowing what we have. So really important to get out there, actually scout what we've got on the ground so we can set ourselves up for having the best solutions for controlling it, whether that's good grass, good fertility, or using a herbicide like DuraCore, Novagraze, some of those options.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of things on the ground here as we walk through, but honestly not as much as what you might see at some other places. Get out on your farm, actually put your feet on the ground and take a look at what weeds you have, whether it's things like buckhorn, plantain, or thistles. We see those a lot this time of year. We identified some henbit, dead nettle, very common to see in these kind of late winter months.
Yep.
We'll start to see that purple flower coming out, especially with that 60-degree weather, right?
Yep.
And then we see a lot of what we'd call buttercup.
Buttercup.
Yellow
Big
flower.
deal to everybody.
That's probably the
Buttercup.
one. It
Sure
tells
is.
on us a lot when we get into April, right? And you see that flower coming up on it. But we walked through here and you can see some flags behind us. We just went ahead and identified some things that we saw on the ground so that we could put a plan together for what we're going to have in control.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So what's our first plant we got here, or a couple of plants?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I mentioned, we've got both some henbit and some dead nettle, and we've got buttercup. Now that henbit dead nettle is already starting to get a little bit of that purpleness on it. Really one that we aren't always controlling in the spring when we start thinking about a March application, right? Whether it's treated fertilizer or it's a broadcast spray, because it's already gone to flower for us. That's one that I'd almost lean towards if it's a big issue, doing something in the fall, getting it out of the way. But the other low-lying weed we've got right underneath the flag here is going to be that buttercup. We see that a lot in our bare spots. It'll come up in our grasses. Really almost looks like a clover from afar. You're not always getting in there and seeing what it is, but that'll tell on you when it starts to come up. Right. We've got multiple varieties, everything from tall buttercups to hairy buttercups. Best control happening either in the fall as a fall emerging weed or right here in the spring as we get into these warmer days.
Yeah. You see that in November, the best time for applicating?
Around
Thanksgiving or?
Yep. So we talk about those thistles, that plantain, the buttercup. For me, it's ones that I'll see not only being undesirables, but really robbing us of a lot of space out in our pastures where we need that good desirable forage that we see behind us. Those are going to be fall emerging weeds, winter weeds that we see. And although we tend to control them in those spring months, we can absolutely go, I'd say, between mid-October up to maybe Thanksgiving, depending on what our weather and our moisture does.
Sure.
As a great time to clear it out and then have really good forage come up in place of it. So you're exactly right in that fall window of application as well.
Now we can use the Ultigrade system as part of that, maybe putting a little fertilizer on some winter rye, some fescues or something, and put some maybe DuraCore Graze on in there.
Put some P&K out there.
P&K out there to feed it,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as we talk about those spring activities, understanding what's going on underneath our grass is imperative.
Yeah.
Pulling our soil tests, knowing what's going on there, putting out fertilizer that's going to really set our forages up for success. And then what we can do with something like DuraCore Graze on Next is impregnate that weed control right there on that fertilizer that's going out. Almost like a weed and feed, if you will. Those weeds are bullies on the playground. They're going to take that fertility up. They're going to take a little bit of the moisture up as well. So if we can get that out of the way and let that fertility go to the grass where we need it, it's definitely ideal.
Yeah. Well, Cody, I guess we might ought to mention, what have you done here? Because you've got some really good winter grazing behind us here.
A lot of this is black oats and also some ryegrass. So I actually went out and broadcast this and lightly disc over the top, but I did go out 300 pounds of a 1717 with some sulfur. I have not impregnated, and that's actually my plan. I want to come back here within a week or two and hit this with some DuraCore impregnated on fertilizer.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to be around probably 70 units of N is my goal. and hopefully in 2 weeks this stuff just takes back off and we can mow this for hay in May.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we've got a plan of coming back in 2 to 3 weeks after the application and showing you what kind of effects he got out of impregnated fertilizer on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one thing you notice is we spent all morning, you might be able to tell from the wet boots.
We've been walking.
Walking around trying to scout for weeds, right? We're practicing what we preach, seeing what weeds we have out there. And one thing that we definitely tell, and kind of the reason we're on the edge of the field here, is where you start to get in some more of that good grass pressure, you have a lot less weeds.
A lot less.
For me, you know, our 4 boxes of weed management, pasture management planning, is soil fertility, weed control, interseeding grasses, and then how we manage it.
Yes.
So where we've got that good grass, that's great weed control.
Chokes those weeds right out.
Exactly, that's the goal. And we've got all those desirable forages. If we talk about something like a green matter mass of weeds taking away space from us, it's not just a 1-for-1 ratio. If you've got 1 pound of green mass of weeds, you can replace that with 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of desirable forage.
Oh, wow.
When we talk about trying to do more with less ground, right, or cutting more hay or having the right stocking rate and enough good quality feed out there, taking those competitive weeds out can really play well for us in the long run.
Because at the end of the day, I say this all the time, it's about weight gain on cattle.
Sure.
Because whether you're growing cattle or whether you're growing corn, you sell weight all the time. And in these areas that are having to compete with weeds, it's feed. It's costing money.
Well, Jason, on this little 8-acre patch right here, that I have grazed this throughout the winter, and mid-January this was beautiful and green, and I mean you can tell we've had those cold snaps, and but I think it's ready for some nitrogen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
Absolutely. Well, and you got that space that's being robbed. We talk about our thistles, right, or even our buckhorn plantain. In something like a hay field, a buckhorn plantain can be detrimental.
Yes.
You get a carpet of it out there and it's going to choke a lot of your weeds out. We talk about good quality forage, but a concern with some of our thistles is not being able to utilize the ground. You've seen those kind of thistle islands we get out there. That's almost a herd health concern, right? Eye injuries, respiratory issues, and even if there is desirable forage mixed in with those thistles, once they grow up, they're not going to go in and utilize that space unless they really have to, because it's like having a really good meal at supper. You're not going to stick your nose in it if you've got thistles coming up around it, right? Unless you're really, really hungry. We want to be able to utilize all that space. Taking things out here in the spring really sets us up for success in being able to extend our grazing days, cut the hay we want out of there. Obviously, we've got Mother Nature to play with as well and all of that, and weather changes, and we talk about getting cold and warm all late winter into spring here, but there's certain things we can do to really set ourselves up for success.
So right now, Cody, I guess Maddie, the ultigraze, what's your plans for taking some of this and rates, I guess you say?
Rates. So I'm probably going to try to go out, since I have got the P&K out in the fall, I'm going to go out with maybe a 40-05 or something, and I may add a little potash there, just to kind of I'm going to go out at 200 pounds as a plan. So we'll probably add a little potash. But right now I'm planning, I'm going to go with DuraCore. I've done Grazon and DuraCore. They both work great. On this particular patch, I'm going to go with DuraCore this time.
20 ounces, is that right?
20 ounces,
20 ounces.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that impregnation system works best with a full rate of DuraCore Grazon Next. So that's going to be that 20 fluid ounces per acre. We talk about, you mentioned how many pounds per acre you're going to put out of fertilizer.
Sure.
That is a big thing we talk about with that system, right? So we are impregnating that herbicide on the prill. So if you have a broadcast spray application, the water is going to be your carrier, right? That's what's getting it out onto all of the area that you're trying to control. If you're impregnating on a fertilizer, that prill of fertilizer is where you're taking that out, right? So we need to have more prills out there to have better control to be able to make it worthwhile. And
it's got more weeds.
Exactly. You need to make sure you're pushing. Honestly, my favorite range that we look at is that 250 pounds per acre. I've had folks, go up to 300, 350, depending on what their goals are, what they've set out for their management plan. The other piece of that is, man, how good our grass looks when we give it the fertility it needs, right? When we set that up for success, take those weeds out, and it's going to be looking really nice for us through the spring.
Okay. All right. Well, let's walk up. We've got some more weeds flagged up through there, and we're going to walk up there and show what those are. And it's starting to rain on us here a little bit this morning, but we're going to carry on. Let's walk up here and look at this for a minute.
Perfect.
All right. All right, Maddie, we've moved up here now, and we've got some curly dock right here.
Yep.
All right.
Curly dock, another one we're starting to see come up in these spring months, something we're controlling before it gets into those summer months. One that's like our buckhorn plantain can rob us of space. On the buckhorn plantain, as we talk about that, and we talked when we were down there a little bit more about the treated fertilizer, one call out I always have to folks is making sure they know what weeds we have to control, right? It's like what we talked about, but the importance of that is so we can pull the right tool. If someone comes into me and says, hey, buckhorn plantain is my biggest problem, different to buttercup and thistles and even curly dock, I'm most likely going to broadcast spray a product like Duracor or even Novagraze, which we can talk about in a moment, because the nature of that broadcast spray is what kills that weed a lot better. I'd say for most things we look at in these spring months, the thistles, everything, buttercup, we're good to go. But we need to have contact onto that plant for the buckhorn plantain. That'd be my only call out. But things like the buttercup we see down here still, some of that henbit, the curly dock, we're going to take care of that just fine with that treated fertilizer system.
Okay. And with the treated fertilizer, we still get the same amount of residual control, whether it's sprayed on, broadcast applied, or whether it's that. And the Duracor gives us a few more days of residual than the Graze on Next, right?
It's a great residual product, which is what's really setting us up for success in the spring. So with that treated fertilizer system, the reason we use Graze on Next or Duracor is because they're residual herbicides. What is a residual herbicide doing for us? It's giving us weed control beyond just the day we spray, acting as a pre-emergent for us. Yep. If we look at weeds coming up year round, whether it's our winter annuals, perennial weeds in the summer, right? We look at pigweed, things like that. We love a residual product because it works harder for us out there than what we're doing just the day we spray. So that's why it works with that system. It gets released into the soil. We're relying on soil root uptake. With something like buttercup, thistles, things like that respond really well to that root uptake, but there's a few things we need. We need some moisture post-treated fertilizer application, release into the soil, right? We need then the roots to be able to be actively growing and pulling stuff to the top. Visually, it might be a little different for folks. If they're used to broadcast spraying where we've got that top-down kill, we're working from the bottom. Remember, we got to take things up. We got to have that rainfall. Visually, it's going to be a little bit slower unless you're getting prill contact on the weed than if you were spraying something like Graze on Next with that 2,4-D, man, that makes your money look like it's working right away. Sure. Really, handy in that, but we want that extended residual period, 45, 50 days after we spray. We want that better control on a lot of those species we see here this spring. Okay, all right. So on the residual side, somebody applies Ultigraze now, what's the effect later on during the warmer seasons of the year? Like, if they happen to miss some something out there, or something that just ain't germinated and come up yet. Absolutely. What's the end result of that? Absolutely. So that window of residual, if we're making a March application, is going to push us into those early summer months, which hopefully let us catch some of those things that are starting to come up there. Now, something like horse nettle that we're seeing, later in the summer, maybe a later flush of pigweed, we might not be able to catch because we're past that residual window. Sure. The other piece we look at in that is Mother Nature. Rainfall. I know we've talked about how, May and June had so much rain for us. If we've got a lot of rain, that aminopyrrolid residual isn't sitting near the top as maybe it was when we first put it out. As things move back, that might shorten that residual window. So you just need to be mindful of what you're getting. It's not going to be your year-round solution. You put a residual out in the spring and it gets you throughout the entire year. Again, that's the importance of knowing what your weeds are. Take time to reflect back. What did I see throughout the summer? Maybe those summer weeds are where I need to spend some money, and I'll run a non-residual here in the spring, maybe not impregnated on my fertilizer, to save my Duracor or something for heavier hitting summer weeds. That's a great point, because we had so much rainfall May and even June that I know here I saw some of those early springtime weeds flourishing in those months you normally don't see them. Yeah. And so that's a great point. Yeah, Mother Nature plays with us or doesn't play with us in how this works, and that goes for, whether it's seeding your grasses or it's trying to manage them or it's our weed control. It's definitely an aspect we got to keep our eyes on that and getting that product out on the ground. Okay. Another weed species with that we ain't talked about is dog fennel. Would this application affect a dog fennel problem, or because it generally it's a little later germinate coming up, so there's a lot of people got that problem, which absolutely
Summer cedars is what we're talking
Summer
about.
cedar,
Everybody
dog
calls them
fennel,
summer
yeah.
cedars
There's a
in
reason
here,
if you ever in
that's
the
what
truck
it
with
is.
me, I keep a weed ID guide, so we're all
trying
talking
to-
about the same
We're trying
thing,
to be
right?
professional since we're here.
It's all it's all good. It's
summer
all
cedar.
good.
Bragging
Yep,
like we know
summer
what we're
cedars,
talking
summer
about.
cedars. No, so when we look at something like summer cedar, similar to horse nettle, it's not going to be my ideal method of control with this treated fertilizer system.
Okay.
There's a few reasons for that. A, it doesn't, like you mentioned, always come up in that same window of the weeds we're targeting with that treated fertilizer. Think your springtime, early summer weeds, that's ideal. When you're typically putting out that fertilizer, or in the fall when some of those winter weeds are starting to emerge. When you start getting into some more of those summer heavy weeds or weeds like dog fennel that just seem to really take better to a broadcast spray application. Again, identifying your heaviest weed pressure is going to be important because maybe that summer cedar is your biggest pressure and that's where we need to spend that money to control that. I'm probably going to broadcast spray it, whether it's something like pasture guard, which is a non-residual option, or tank mixing, like some DuraCore Graze On Next with maybe some Remedy.
Yeah.
We can put some tank mixes together, and that's where folks like y'all, or what I do, it really is helpful to producers,
Sure.
right? Sometimes it's not just one thing that's in a jug, it's gonna be our best
Right.
option. We need to expand what we're getting control of in the tank by mixing together a few different products.
Good deal. All right, I think we've got a couple more flags where we found some things around through here. Let's walk up that way.
That's perfect.
All right. All right, so now we've moved out to one of Cody's hay fields, and we've found some thistle and some buckhorn plantain that the impregnated fertilizer should control, right?
Yep, especially with those thistles, like we mentioned a little bit earlier. We got a couple buckhorn plantain out there, we're gonna be good. If it's a blanket of it as you go and identify, we're gonna have better control most likely with that broadcast spray application, but great management and being able to take care of both of those, which as we look at photos of them and kind of video out here, really are gonna start robbing us of some space. So it'll be great to see a before and after out here too, of being able to control those.
Yeah, which we're going to do here. Maybe you said you're going
Within
by
the next-
couple
yeah.
of days or something.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Next week for sure.
Next week for sure, and then come back to you and show you the results here pretty soon. But guys, I think we've covered everything, haven't we, as far as weed control, and most obvious weeds are in most people's farms.
Absolutely.
Right now.
The only thing I would add in, just as we're looking at this, is one more option for the folks that maybe need to stay away from the residuals or are managing white clovers out in their pastures. We do have a product called Nova Graze, which is a new non-residual we've had on the market for a little over a year now. Been really great on the plantains, thistles, buttercups, a lot of those spring weeds, small ironweed, things like that as we get into the beginning of the summer. But for folks that might have a pasture, just heard about these DuraCore Graze On Next products, but said, man, I got white clovers out there I'm trying to manage as well. This is going to be a great option for them.
We see a lot of that. A lot of folks that's dependent on that clover, you
Absolutely,
know. So.
absolutely, yeah. And, you know, it's kind of like looking at your dinner plate. You don't want to just have all of one thing. So well-managed clovers in there can be beneficial. Also great for hay producers that want to stay non-residual or other folks like that. So just another option if you've got, again, identifying your management plan. What is the best tool for us to pull out of the toolbox? That's just one other thing I'd throw in there. But a great control option for the spring is going to be a residual herbicide like DuraCore, especially running it on that treated fertilizer. A really good, safe way to get that product out. At the end of the day, we're grass farmers.
That's
Just
right.
the animals
We are.
and then the hay management is what takes it off the ground for us, but really important to get that forage in good quality out there in front of us.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. And if somebody has some questions or needs some help, you're available.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yep.
whenever we can get a hold of you,
Yeah.
to get her to come by.
Yeah.
Just holler at some of us at the stores, and we can get up with Maddie and get her out to your place if you've got some questions with even fence rows, right?
Yep.
Brush control, any of those things. We're more available. You're available to help at any time, and so.
Yeah. Here to advise and help answer questions,
Yeah.
help us set ourselves up for success.
Yeah, Cody, thanks for sharing your farm with us.
Yeah,
We
thank you.
appreciate it, and we'll be back here in the next couple of weeks with you to show you the results of this. And so
Hopefully we got green grass and dead weeds.
that's
That's
right.
what we're
That's
going
what we're
for.
shooting for. Okay, thank y'all for joining us this time. We'll see you next time.